the ultimate life satisfaction. So won't you try that love? You know that there's no excuse for no one not to try your love. You'll be grateful you let inside you. So won't you try that love? I know that, but right is the only reason to the key to inner satisfaction. So won't you try that love?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Third World.
My name is Richard Daly, bass player for Third World. Everyone calls me Basie. I also consider myself one of Bunny Ruggs' closest friends. I couldn't count the amount of times we have played this song all over the world. Aside from its meaning, it also defines the style of Third World, where we have three lead vocalists singing. I know I'll never see him sing it once more, but I'll always hear it as his memory lives on. As he sang at the end, some may suffer and some may burn, but one day his children will learn. And as sure as the sun shines way up in the sky, today I stand here a victim. The truth is, I'll never die. Live on, Bunny Ruggs. We love you.
96 degrees in the shade. Real hot in the shade. 96 degrees in the shade. Real hot, oh yes, in the shade.
Said it was 96 degrees in the shade. 10,000 soldiers on parade, taking iodine to meet a big fat boy. He was sent from overseas, the Queen employed. Excellency, before you I come with my representation. You know where I'm coming from. Caught me on the loose, fighting to be free. Now you show me a noose on the cotton tree. Entertainment for you, martyrdom for me.
96 degrees in the shade. Real hot in the shade. 96 degrees in the shade. Real hot.
You are invited to participate in a true multimedia experience coming to a home near you. LCM TV is bringing Lake County into the new millennium with news, live broadcast, information, music, talk shows, and local programming, all streaming in high definition online and soon to be on your Roku box. Join us at lcm-tv.com or be a part of our studio audience. You can also watch the shows at lakecomagazine.com as we provide programming to inform, enlighten, and maybe even enrage you. On Lake County Magazine Talk Show with Terry and Pete the Tax Guy, Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Like racing? Try the Checkered Flag Show, hosted by Ace Naylor on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. All ages and divisions in regional and national fields. Joni Lane brings a positive light to you every Monday at 3 p.m. Pasha Space brings an international flair as they discuss ecological, health, and social issues in Haiti with people around the world. End up your week with positive, conscious sounds on Saturday at 9 a.m. with Sister T on the Bridge. This show is also simulcast on KMEC 105.1 FM in Ukiah. Our latest show, LCM TV News, is brought to you live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon, and rebroadcast at 6:30 p.m. and noon daily, Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday, featuring national, regional, and local news, weather, and sports. We have it all here for you on your local TV station, LCM TV. Join us online and soon on Roku, giving you access to all the best Lake County has to offer. We are LCMTV.com, your multimedia connection. Tune in for the fun. It's live TV at its best.
Good afternoon. This is LCM TV News at noon. We're not your normal news. I'm Pete Schiffman.
I'm Megan Berger.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon. A controversial U.S. military training exercise known as Operation Jade Helm rolls out this week across several southwestern states, but a group of wary citizen watchdogs will be keeping an eye on them. Pete Lenteri, a former Marine now living in Arizona, told FoxNews.com that volunteer members he helped organize will be on the ground as part of a newly formed surveillance campaign called Counter Jade Helm. A product of mounting suspicions across western states over the exercise itself, the group has been set up to locate, track, and observe U.S. soldiers comprised of Green Berets, Air Force Special Ops, Navy SEALs, training across the Southwest. The 3-month military exercise kicks off Wednesday. Lenteri played down the notion that the counter-campaign could lead to conflict. Lenteri said they are not going to be out there confronting people or holding signs. Rather, Lenteri and his volunteers will be in plain clothes, in plain sight, and armed only with cell phones and video cameras. Lenteri's operation quickly gained momentum after the military announced it would carry out lengthy military exercises across the Southwest. Many, like retired Caryville, Texas Sheriff's Deputy Eric Johnson, wanted answers on why the soldiers would be there. Johnson, who will run surveillance teams in Central Texas, told the Houston Chronicle he wasn't even sure why the military exercises were being held. For its part, the U.S. military said it trains on tough Southwest terrain because it best replicates conditions where special operations soldiers are likely to find themselves, and said this type of training helps the military stay ahead of the environmental challenges faced overseas. The Pentagon has said the exercise poses no threat to civil liberties. Locals were not buying it.
Documents revealed Monday that the DEA first warned Mexican authorities 16 months ago that plots to break drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman out of prison were underway. The documents show that drug agents first got information in March of 2014 that various Guzman family members and Drug World associates were considering potential operations to free Guzman. A U.S. official briefed on the investigation told the Associated Press that Mexican authorities were alerted about the plots. Late Monday, Mexico Interior Secretary Miguel Angel Osorio Chong said that authorities were never informed in that respect, referring to previous escape plans. Guzman had been captured in February 2014 at a Mexican seaside resort, and plans to free him became to form almost immediately. Since the 1990s, Guzman's violent and powerful cartel has been known for digging sophisticated smuggling tunnels under the U.S. border with Mexico. The man known as El Chapo was first arrested in 1993, but escaped in Jalisco from one of Mexico's top security prisons in January of 2001, allegedly by hiding in a laundry basket.
Sorry.
He evaded capture in early February 2014 through an elaborate network of tunnels that connected multiple safe houses in Caloocan and in his home state of Sinaloa, and was arrested again 2 weeks later. Jim Dinkins, former head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement's Homeland Security Investigations Unit, said that Guzman's history of tunneling makes Saturday's escape really ingenious. The sophisticated tunnel described by Mexican authorities would usually take about 1.5 years to 2 years to complete, Dinkins said, suggesting that it was started almost immediately after his arrest in 2014. The key to finding out what happened and where he went may be a 20-something former beauty queen. Guzman's current wife, Emma Coronel, who holds dual Mexican and U.S. citizenship, was one of the few people to have been permitted to visit Guzman while he was incarcerated at the Altiplano Maximum Security Prison near Mexico City, and there is speculation that Coronel may have aided his daring escape. Guzman's beauty queen wife, who was arrested alongside the drug lord in February 2014 in the couple's Mazatlán condominium, but subsequently was released without charges, grew up surrounded by Mexico's drug trade. Her uncle was Ignacio Nacho Coronel, a key member of the Sinaloa cartel and a close associate of Guzman. Nacho Coronel was known as the Crystal King for his role in introducing Mexican methamphetamine to the U.S. before his death in a gunfight with the Mexican army in 2010.
And as an update on that, this morning a video was released showing his cell and how he was pacing back and forth, and that he went into his shower area and disappeared, because that's where the tunnel...
And he did also send a tweet to Donald Trump, too.
Did he really?
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
I haven't read it, but basically he's telling Donald Trump, you're an idiot for underestimating, Mexicans.
should give him a death threat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Enough of that one.
So I should be able to track his IP address, I would think.
They're
Or his
throwaway
phone,
phones,
or,
whatever.
I don't think
Okay.
throwaway phones have access to Twitter.
I don't think so. Anyway, the U.S. may have just lost its best leverage to secure the release of 4 citizens held in Iran. Monday's nuclear agreement with Iran includes no provisions for the release of 3 Americans known to be detained in Iran and a 4th thought to be held captive by the Islamic Republic. What happened today makes a bad deal even worse, said Jay Sekulow, Chief Counsel of the American Center for Law and Justice. We will now focus our attention on convincing Congress to reject the deal. Secretary of State John Kerry, who led the U.S. side of negotiations for the deal, did address the plight of former Marine Amir Hekmati, Washington Post Iran Bureau Chief Jason Rezaian, Christian pastor Saeed Abedini, and ex-FBI agent Robert Levinson during his press conference announcing the nuke deal. Sekulow said not making the prisoners' freedom part of the Iran deal was unconscionable. President Obama told the Abedini family face-to-face that he considered the release of Pastor Saeed a top priority. This is according to Sekulow. How could that be a top priority when a deal is reached and Pastor Saeed is left behind? To this point, public actions from Congress and the Obama administration have been limited to carefully worded requests for release. As the nuclear deal approaches the finish line, Obama's public statement seemed to suggest the imprisoned Americans would not be part of any final agreement. This is something that we continue to push hard on, irrespective of the nuclear deal, Obama said on June 30th. Senator Ted Cruz, a Republican from Texas, said on Monday's agreement was no opportunity to move in a new direction for the 4 Americans that lamented the language used to ask for their release.
On Monday, President Obama commuted the sentences of 46 nonviolent federal drug offenders, bringing the total number of clemencies he's issued to more than the last 4 U.S. presidents combined. The commutations are part of a second-term push by Obama to reverse what his administration sees as unfair sentences. Last year, Obama commuted the sentences of 43 federal prisoners as part of an initiative by former Deputy Attorney General James Cole. Of the 46 commutations Obama issued Monday, 14 went to people carrying life sentences. Obama, in a video released by the White House, said that those who he commuted had sentences that did not fit the crime. These men and women were not hardened criminals, Obama said, noting that the overwhelming majority of the 46 had been sentenced to at least 20 years. Obama has now issued 89 commutations during his presidency, most of them to nonviolent offenders sentenced for drug crimes under outdated sentencing guidelines. Obama's lawyer, White House counsel Neil Eggleston, predicted the president would issue even more commutations before leaving office in early 2017. But he also said that Obama's powers to fix the problem were limited, adding that clemency alone will not fix decades of overly punitive sentencing policies. Obama this week is devoting considerable attention to the criminal justice system. On Thursday, he is to become the first sitting president to visit a federal prison when he goes to the El Reno Federal Correctional Institution outside of Oklahoma City. While there, he will meet with law enforcement officials and inmates. The 46 sentence reductions announced Monday are the most presidential commutations in a single day since the Lyndon Johnson administration in the 1960s.
One of the people that received a pardon was the mother of a well-known National Football League player. She had been sentenced to 28 years for trafficking. But she was not a hardened criminal.
Yeah, when you go to federal prison, you don't get time reduction. Either you serve the whole thing.
Right.
So.
On Tuesday, President Obama called for a sweeping bipartisan effort to fix what he called a broken system of criminal justice that has locked up too many Americans for too long, especially a whole generation of young black and Hispanic men. In a long and at times passionate address to a convention of the NAACP, Mr. Obama said the mass incarceration of the past 2 decades have gone too far and left many communities devastated. He tied what he called the bias built into the system to be racially charged upheaval in places like Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore. The president's speech was intended to build on a movement for change that has crossed party lines. Republican and Democratic lawmakers have teamed up with the support of liberal and conservative advocacy groups to propose a variety of measures to overhaul the system. In his speech, Mr. Obama singled out 2 Republicans who have been leading legislative efforts, Senators Rand Paul of Kentucky and John Cronin of Texas. Among other things, he said the country should focus more resources on early childhood education to prevent young people from straying in the first place. He called for a sentencing overhaul bill to be passed this year that would reduce mandatory minimum sentences or get rid of them entirely, favoring treatment or other alternatives for many drug offenders. He called for better conditions for prisoners, deploring overcrowding, and asked for a review of solitary confinement, declaring that it was not going to make us safer to hold an inmate alone in a cell for 23 hours a day. He also said the country needed to make it easier for offenders to re-enter society after prison. He endorsed the effort to ban the box, meaning the question many employers ask applicants for past convictions. And he said those who serve their sentences should be able to vote. In making his case, he noted the U.S. has a higher incarceration rate than China or Europe, and that black and Hispanic men are more likely to be stopped, frisked, questioned, charged, detained. Rather than criticizing Mr. Obama, Republicans made it clear they shared some of the same concerns and had been working on bipartisan legislation to address them.
NASA's New Horizons spacecraft got humanity's first up-close look at Pluto on Tuesday, sending word of its triumph across 3 billion miles to scientists waiting breathlessly back home. Confirmation of mission success came 13 hours after the actual flyby and allowed the New Horizons team to celebrate in full force. The unprecedented encounter was the last stop on NASA's grand tour of the planets over the past half-century. New Horizons' journey began 9.5 years ago, back when Pluto was still considered a full-fledged planet. According to NASA, the spacecraft, the size of a baby grand piano, swept within 7,700 miles of Pluto at 31,000 miles per hour. It was programmed to then go past the dwarf planet and begin studying its far side. Images will start, quote, raining down on Earth beginning today. It takes 4.5 hours for signals to travel one way between New Horizons and Earth. The message went out late in the afternoon during a brief break in the spacecraft's data gathering frenzy. The New Horizons team kept up a confirmation countdown, noting via Twitter when the signal should have passed the halfway point, then Jupiter's orbit. The U.S. is now the only nation to visit every planet in the solar system. Pluto was number 9 in the lineup when New Horizons left Cape Canaveral, Florida on January 19, 2006, but was demoted 7 months later to dwarf status. The picture of Pluto taken on Monday showed a frozen, pockmarked world, peach-colored with a heart-shaped bright spot in a darker area around the equator. LCM TV will bring you updated photos of Pluto on the next news at noon on Friday. And we will be back with regional news after this brief message.
SSS Multimedia is sending you smoke signals, providing their clients with the ultimate communication and multimedia marketing, distribution, production, and web-based services. They feature high-def video equipment and quality audio sound. SSS is your multimedia source, from graphics for business cards to television production, radio, live sound, and everything in between. SSS is sending you smoke signals. Get your message out with SSS Multimedia. For more information, call 707-701-6416 or email info@sssmultimedia.com.
And welcome back with regional news now. 6-month-old Ember Graham was reported missing on July 2nd in Happy Valley after her father Matthew Graham said she was abducted from her crib sometime overnight. He called police at about 5:26 a.m., stating it put her into bed at 10 p.m. the night before. Graham has been a person of interest from the start. In a statement by the Shasta County Sheriff's Department on July 3rd, they said Graham's statements were inconsistent and that they would be shifting their search to a different area. Graham was arrested on a probation violation around 8 p.m. on July 2nd and held in custody. He was then released on an ankle monitor that was supposed to report to probation every day. On the night of July 9th, search and rescue teams found a pacifier on the side of the highway in the Ono area. On Sunday, July 11th, Graham's mother reported that her semi-automatic pistol and cash were missing and that Graham had cut his ankle monitor and fled. In the early morning hours of July 13th, law enforcement authorities were alerted to a vehicle that was stolen in the Shasta County area at gunpoint. Law enforcement officers observed this vehicle traveling northbound on Interstate 5. When Graham entered Siskiyou County, officials there were alerted. According to a statement made by Siskiyou County Sheriff's Department, since the suspect involved in the carjacking was reported to be armed and dangerous, additional officers got into position to effect a high-risk law enforcement vehicle stop with adequate personnel. A pursuit ensured as officers pursued the vehicle to a residential area in the South Dunsmuir area. Graham fled the vehicle and ran toward a residence in that area. Shots were exchanged between Graham and officers who were attempting to take him into custody. The firearm exchange ultimately resulted in Graham being fatally wounded. No other occupants were in the vehicle or involved in the gunfire. At this time, the California Department of Justice Bureau of Investigations, investigators from the California Highway Patrol, including CHP MATE team, investigators from the Shasta County Sheriff's Office Shooting Investigators Team, as well as detectives from the Siskiyou County Sheriff's Office and an investigator from the Siskiyou County District Attorney's Office are conducting a joint investigation under the direction of the DOJ. More information will be forthcoming as the investigation continues. There's still no sign of baby Ember.
A federal judge ordered a suburban Los Angeles city on Tuesday to release video of the police fatally shooting an unarmed man 2 years ago. Judge Stephen V. Wilson said that the public should be able to see what led the city of Gardena to pay $4.7 million to settle a lawsuit with the family of the dead man and another wounded man. His order was stayed by a federal appeals court late in the day after the video was released and made public by the news media. Police car video shows the killing of Ricardo Diaz-Zeferino, who was stopped by the police investigating a bicycle theft. Mr. Diaz-Zeferino, 34, was trying to help his brother find his stolen bike. He was shot when he died. He was shot when he did not obey officers' commands to stand still with his hands in the air. According to Los Angeles County District Attorney in a report outlining why the office did not charge the officers. Witnesses said that Diaz Zeferino was trying to tell officers that two other friends they had stopped were the wrong man. An autopsy found he was drunk and had methamphetamine in his system.
As many as 250,000 customers who used their credit cards at dozens of Napa Valley wineries this April had their financial information and personal data stolen by a cyber thief. However, it appears no evidence of significant fraudulent use of the data has been found yet. The intruder gained access to customer names, credit debit card numbers, related billing address, and any dates of birth from winery clients using e-seller systems created by Missing Link Networks of Calistoga. Responding to this criminal act is our top priority, said Paul Fiennes, founder and CEO of Missing Link Networks, Inc. Approximately 70 wineries throughout the Northern California wine region use eSeller to manage their inventory and purchases in tasting rooms, with wine clubs and online. A complete list of those clients was not provided. The thief did not have access to any driver's license numbers, social security numbers, CVV verification numbers, or PIN numbers, Fiennes wrote. We have identified and secured the method that was used to breach our platform, he said. From now on, no payment card information will be stored by Missing Link. The credit cards potentially impacted by this event appear to be those swiped or entered manually at the winery, entered online for purchases from winery websites, and those retained for wine club shipments. Credit and debit cards from all four major brands, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover, were affected. Each of these card companies have been notified of the breach and provided with information for the cards affected. In addition to offering fraud and identity theft counseling to affected clients, Missing Link Networks also identified the U.S. Secret Service about the theft. The Secret Service Electronic Crimes Task Force is currently investigating a network intrusion involving Missing Link Networks, said Charles Marino, acting special agent in charge of the Secret Service San Francisco field office. That task force is charged with protecting financial payment systems and investigating suspected cyber breaches. According to the State Department of Justice, California customers of the following wineries were affected by the data breach: Summers Estate Wines, Spring Mountain Vineyard, Silverado Vineyards, Signorello Estate, Round Pond Estates, Reeves Vineyards, Reprieve Vineyards, Pride Mountain Vineyards, Palmaz Vineyards, Outpost Vineyards, Martinelli Winery, Larkmead Vineyards, Venture and Grower, Jessup Cellars, The Good Life Wine Collective, Heights Wine Cellars, Gemstone Vineyards, Fuller Springs Winery and Vineyards, Charles Krug Winery, Mondavian family, Corson Winery, Kane Vineyard and Winery, Peter Michael Winery, Rambo Vineyards, Inc., Turley Wine Cellars, Cliff Bar Family Winery and Farm. Anybody that's been infiltrated to some extent, everybody that has been infiltrated to some extent. The amount of time that this will take to fix is millions of dollars. Each winery affected has to notify all customers of the breach, hire attorneys, and pay for free credit reporting for their customers. Each credit card has different rules you have to follow following such a breach. This can take valuable time away from running their businesses, many of which are family-run or small business operations.
A Santa Rosa man was arrested Sunday on suspicion of child endangerment and other charges after he allowed his 15-year-old daughter to drive his Dodge Ram home while he rode along as a drunken passenger. An officer stopped the truck Sunday night around 7:30 p.m. after noticing it going around 20 miles per hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone on Llano Road with expired registration. The officer stopped the truck after it pulled into a private driveway and found that a 15-year-old was driving with passenger Gracefedo Chavez, 35. Chavez told the officer he was teaching his daughter to drive and that he was meeting someone at the driveway they'd pulled into. But the owner of the home said they didn't know Chavez. The officer noticed several empty beer cans in the trunk and that Chavez showed signs of intoxication. Chavez was arrested on suspicion of child endangerment, permitting an unlicensed driver to operate his vehicle, and providing false information to an officer. The girl was released to her mother.
More than 1,800 immigrants that the federal government wanted to deport were released from local jails and later rearrested for various crimes, according to a government report released Monday. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement report, obtained by an organization that actively opposes illegal immigration, said the rearrest immigrants were among 8,145 people who were freed between January and August 2014 despite requests from federal agents that they be held for deportation. More than 250 jurisdictions across the country, including some formerly designated as sanctuary cities such as San Francisco, have stopped fully honoring so-called immigration detainers, saying they can't hold arrestees beyond their scheduled release dates without probable cause. California and Connecticut have passed state laws to limit the use of immigration detainers, and jails in states from Oregon to Iowa also refuse to honor the request. In the report provided by the Washington-based Center for Immigration Studies, the top crimes for which immigrants were rearrested were drug violations and drunken driving. The report also cited 6 examples involving more serious offenses, including a San Mateo County case in which an individual was arrested for investigation of 5 felony sex crimes involving a child under 14. The controversy surrounding immigration detainers has re-entered the national spotlight since the shooting death of 32-year-old Catherine Steinle on a San Francisco pier. Suspect Juan Francisco Lopez Sanchez was released from jail in April, even though immigration officials had lodged a detainer to try to deport him from the country for the 6th time. San Francisco Sheriff Ross Marcarimi has argued that he was upholding local law and that detainers are not a legal way to keep someone in custody and have been proven to erode police relations with immigrant communities. So far this year, the Obama administration is on track to remove the fewest number of immigrants from the country since 2006. In 2012, the government sent home a record of more than 409,000 immigrants with help from a program that automatically alerts federal agents every time someone with an immigration record is arrested. Immigrant advocates complain that immigrants arrested for investigation of minor violations were getting deported, not the dangerous criminals ICE claimed to target, and decried the use of detainers. Following the pushback, ICE last year said it will focus on more serious criminals and asked law enforcement agencies to notify them when they're releasing immigrants from custody, if not actually hold them. Some agencies already do just that and tell immigration agents when they come by the jails to pick up individuals who are about to be freed.
Proposed laws aimed at cracking down on the overuse of psychiatric medication in foster care require more from judges, lawyers, nurses, social workers, caregivers, and state investigators to better protect children from potentially dangerous drugs. The measures, however, create no rules for the one profession at the heart of the problem, doctors who do the prescribing. Under 4 bills now moving through the state assembly, California's juvenile courts and social services agencies, not the medical profession, would be tasked with keeping in check the physicians who treat traumatized children. Backers of the bill say it's the most promising strategy to create current, urgently needed regulation for foster children whose lobbyists are few, without directly taking on one of the most politically influenced groups in the state. Right now, it's just a river of meds and we're building a dam, said Anna Johnson, a policy analyst with the National Center for Youth Law, who has helped craft 3 of the bills. Along with spreading access to non-drug therapies, the legislation is critical, Johnson said, because the medical community is not policing themselves and we don't have anyone checking their practices on behalf of foster children. Millions of taxpayer dollars would be spent under the legislation. Even state investigators would play a role, reining in residential group homes with high prescribing patterns. So far, physicians groups have not formally opposed the bills, which last month received unanimous support in the state Senate. Still, many in the medical profession are expressing concerns at what would ultimately be new checks on their prescribing practices. At public hearings, in closed-door meetings to discuss amendments, and in letters to lawmakers, child psychiatrists, the California Medical Association, California Psychiatric Association, and the County Behavioral Health Directors Association of California have complained about being subject to second medical opinions and curbs on their ability to prescribe drugs for uses that are not approved by the Food and Drug Administration. An at times controversial but common practice known as off-label prescribing. They've objected to bill language requiring evidence that less invasive treatments were tried and protested an earlier provision that would have given 14-year-olds the right to reject medication unless they gave their written, informed consent. The bills seek to curb psychiatric drug use in foster care. Bill SB 238 requires certification and training programs for foster parents, child welfare social workers, group home administrators, dependency court judges, and court-appointed lawyers to include training on psychotropic medication, trauma, and behavioral health. Also requires the California Department of Social Services to produce monthly reports on children's medication and to alert social workers when multiple medications, high dosages, or prescriptions for children aged 5 and younger are prescribed. SB 253 strengthens court oversight of psychotropic drug prescribing, and courts would ensure foster children prescribed medications received health exams and ongoing monitoring. A second independent medical opinion would be required when medication is prescribed to children aged 5 or younger, or high doses or multiple medications are prescribed. Judges would allow teens to object and determine whether drugs weren't being used as punishment or for the convenience of staff in residential facilities. SB 319 expands the duties of foster care public health nurses to include monitoring and oversight of children prescribed psychotropic medication. The bill would fund an additional 38 nurses so that counties had a 1 to 200 nurse to patient ratio. Nurses would ensure lab tests were performed and medical records were properly maintained. SB 484 requires the California Department of Social Services to identify group homes that may be inappropriately administering psychotropic medications to foster youth. The department would be required to inspect those homes and obtain corrective action plans.
California uses a controversial method to recover contraband from inmates believed to have swallowed or concealed in his body cavities potty watches, where inmates are handcuffed and shackled for days or even weeks while guards watch around the clock until nature takes its course. Prison officials say the watches are necessary to recover weapons, cell phones, and notes passed among inmates to coordinate illegal gang activities. Some recovered items seem truly bizarre. A can opener, hearing aids, and an entire electric tattoo kit. Very popular in prison. The watches have been used 1,200 times in the last 2.5 years, yet state reports show that they produce results less than 41% of the time. Other large states have been less restrictive ways of searching for contraband. The Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation's Inspector General reported procedural problems this spring in nearly half the contraband watch cases his office reviewed. Suspected smugglers are strip searched, then placed in an isolation cell in which the toilet has been covered and the water turned off. Their clothing is taped shut at the waist and legs to prevent them from physically reaching body cavities. Their hands are cuffed to a chain around their waist and the legs may be shackled. If they fight back, they can be strapped down by the arms and legs. What are known as hand isolation devices, similar to oven mitts, can be used with a warden's approval. There they stay for at least 72 hours or until they complete at least 3 closely watched bowel movements and the guard searches through the results. Something is recovered from about 4 out of 10 inmates. It's a fairly low percentage and people aren't guilty are being put through torture, said Laura Magnani, an American Friends Service Committee program director who sits on a committee that mediates between the prison system and inmates. I mean, people are shocked when they hear of this. Inmates are restrained to keep them from re-swallowing items, and it's the inmates who can prolong the process by refusing to eat. We still have some way to determine if inmates have something in their bodies or they don't, according to Corrections Secretary Jeffrey Beard said in an interview. He said the department has reduced the number of watches in recent years and is exploring scanning technology that could one day replace them. California's current practice goes well beyond those of other states. The watches being upheld by the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals last year. One judge dissented in part, saying restraints in brightly lit cells could cause unconstitutional sleep deprivation. State rules now call providing a mattress and blanket and dimming the lights at night, if guards can still see the inmate. Guards are supposed to avoid applying duct tape directly to an inmate's skin and are to periodically free hands and legs one at a time for 5 minutes of exercise. The changes are a positive step, said Khalid Mason, the lawyer who lost in the 9th Circuit decision. But he said failing to find contraband 60% of the time is a good reason to discontinue the procedure, given the extreme invasion of human dignity that is involved. Okay.
I'm keeping my opinion to myself on that one.
You're next here.
Even as Woodland debates how best to address so-called camping amongst its homeless population, Yolo County is forming a homeless services unit to focus on additional solutions. The distinction was apparent this past week when Yolo County supervisors heard from Health and Human Services Director Joan Planell, who said 4 full-time employees would help implement the program that would include a homeless program coordinator, a mental health specialist, and social work practitioner, in addition to a homeless program manager in Sacramento. These new employees will work to continue the county's 10-year homeless plan to reach 4 goals, which center around preventing homelessness through early assistance such as providing housing and other services in order to make people more self-sufficient. The culmination of this effort was the Bridge to Housing program, where dozens of people who had lived on a riverbank in West Sacramento were offered resources and housing at a nearby motel scheduled for demolition for more than 3 months. The absolute most amazing thing about this project is the Housing Authority's unique idea to issue housing vouchers, said Karen Larson, Yolo County's mental health director, about Bridge to Housing several months ago. We ended up getting 91% of our participants getting housing vouchers, and that happened in less than 4 months when it usually takes over a year. That is amazing. It hasn't happened anywhere else in the state or nation. Representatives from the city of West Sacramento and Yolo County, along with nonprofit and faith-based organizations, developed the Bridge to Housing project after brainstorming alternative ways to address homelessness, which also included providing food and mental health services. Yolo County's most recent homeless census in January this year identified 498 people who had no place to go. Meanwhile, Woodland City Council diverted to an ad hoc committee on a proposed camping ordinance after people representing a cross-section of churches and homeless advocates protested. Making me a criminal is not the solution, said Patricia Ann Morgan, a woman living on the streets in Woodland, told the council the same night Yolo supervisors heard about the actions being taken to deal with homeless issues. Morgan, along with others, opposed an ordinance that was being upgraded to reflect changes in language that would have effectively made it tougher on the homeless to find a place to sleep. Under the amendments up for consideration by the council, the definition of camping considered to be residing on or using any public or private property at night for living, accommodation purposes such as sleeping activities or making preparations to sleep, including the laying down of bedding for the purposes of sleeping, or storing personal belongings or making any fire or using tents, regularly cooking meals or living in a parked vehicle, would have altered to permit less latitude. The overall effect would have been to make it possible for police to find or move along people setting up a place to sleep for the night on public or private property. Complaints by downtown business owners have been growing as more homeless people spent nights sleeping in their entryways or back alleys. Other areas such as city parks and even county buildings have become the site of homeless camps. As a result of the intercession by citizens against the ordinance, it was moved to table the changes to the proposed ordinance and form an ad hoc committee to see if there was any alternatives available.
For the second summer in a row, Sacramento County is using herds of goats to clear overgrown brush. Officials say that's because goats are environmental friendly and are cost-effective alternative to power mowers. The county has contracted up to 200 goats to clear weeds on county-owned properties this summer. Elizabeth Carrington, an engineer with the Sacramento County Department of Water Resources, says residents may have seen herds grazing in various parts of the county. Carrington says clearing the land during the drought helps reduce fire danger. And goats have some unique benefits over mowers. We've noticed that the goats, when they consume the weeds, they don't spread the seeds. So we've seen a decrease in regrowth, she says. And also, they may be in the basin for a while, but we have seen a very positive reaction from the public. She also says using goats frees up county maintenance crews to work on other fire suppression projects. We're going to take a break. We'll be back soon with the local news.
The taxman's taken all my dough and left me in my stately home, blazing on a sunny afternoon. And I can't sail my yacht, he's taken everything I got. All I've got's this sunny afternoon.
Manticorp Tax and Accounting can help you minimize taxation, establish a corporate presence, and save you money. Our over 25 years of experience in domestic and international taxation and incorporation services makes us the best at what we do. Your first consultation at Manticorp is always free, and our discounted rates guarantee you will not end up paying for what you don't get. Try Manticorp today. For more information, call 707-701-6416 or email info@manticorpusa.com.
In the summertime.
And we're back with your local news. At approximately 6 p.m. yesterday, Kelseyville resident Jesse Gonzalez reported that his red Ford Excursion was missing from the Kmart parking lot on Main Street in Lakeport. Lakeport police put out a BOL, or Be on the Lookout, BOLO, over police traffic for the stolen SUV. Approximately 5 hours later, the car was found by CHP on Sulphur Bank Road in Clear Lake Oaks, but it was totaled. Gonzalez stated that Lakeport Police Department called me and told me that CHP found it, and I don't understand why someone would do this. It was such a good car to me, and I used it to transport myself and my 4 kids. We are Pomo, and dance season is starting up. All my children's dancing regalia was taken as well, and those costumes took hours to make. If someone wanted a ride, I would have given it to them. If you have any information, please contact either Lakeport Police Department or CHP.
Yes. A wanted fugitive was captured by Clear Lake Police Department with the assistance of the K-9 unit yesterday afternoon. According to Clear Lake Police Sergeant Tim Selly, Clear Lake police officers Lance and Peralt observed a wanted fugitive. 23-year-old Clear Lake resident Devin Walker entered a residence located near Phillips and 29th Avenue. Walker had outstanding felony warrants issued for his arrest. Officers attempted to contact Walker at the residence, and while they were contacting residents in the front of the location, Walker fled out the rear. Officers pursued Walker on foot, giving him numerous commands to stop. Walker continued to flee, jumping over fences through nearby properties. After a lengthy foot pursuit, Walker was finally boxed in near the 15,900 block of 26th Avenue. Walker continued to ignore numerous commands to stop and ignored warnings from Officer Lenz that if he didn't stop, the police K-9 would be deployed. Walker attempted to escape over a wire fence to an adjacent property, at which time the dog was deployed and police K-9 Dex apprehended Walker, biting him in the leg. Walker pulled the police K-9 over the fence with him, where the K-9 continued to bite him. Walker was taken into custody without further incident. He suffered a minor laceration from the K-9 bite and was treated at St. Helena Clear Lake Hospital for his injury, then booked at the Lake County Jail. It is also reported that K-9 Dex was not injured during the apprehension. Walker has been charged with resisting arrest in addition to the warrants that he was running from. Public records show that Walker had been arrested 7 times previously in Lake County and once in Tahima County for various charges that include, but are not limited to, domestic violence, assault with a deadly weapon, vandalism, burglary, and drug charges. Bail was set at $50,000, and he's still in custody at the time of publishing.
Good boy, Dex. Give that dog a treat. On July 10th, deputies from the Mendocino County Sheriff Office Comet Unit, County of Mendocino Marijuana Eradication Team, assisted by law enforcement officers from BLM and the U.S. Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife, and the Lake County Sheriff Office, conducted investigation of a marijuana garden located in the area of the Red Mountain Campground on Cow Mountain, BLM recreation area, just east of Ukiah in Mendocino County. Law enforcement personnel were able to locate the marijuana garden and camp. The 3 listed suspects were at the camp, attempted to flee and resist arrest, and were apprehended by a U.S. Forest Service Police K-9 unit. Located in the camp was a loaded, sawed-off shotgun, a loaded pistol, as well as over 3,200 marijuana plants, scales, packaging material, and processed marijuana. There was trash and litter strewn about, human waste, water diversions, and a recently killed deer, which appeared to have been harvested for food. All 3 suspects were taken to a local hospital and treated for the injuries sustained while they attempted to escape arrest, then booked into the Mendocino County Jail for the listed charges with a bail set at $50,000.
Also on the 10th, the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office was called to the 5,000 block of Highway 128 in Philo by Boonville Fire regarding a possible explosive device in an open field. An item approximately 13 inches long with tail fins which appeared to be an old military-type explosive training round, was located on the hillside. It appeared that the device had been among scrap metal at the location and was uncovered when the scrap was being removed. The Sonoma County Sheriff's Office bomb team arrived at the location where the device was rendered safe and destroyed. The Mendocino County Sheriff's Office was called to the 5,000 block of Highway 120 Philo regarding a explosive device in an open field.
Oh, it's a repeat.
Sorry,
Oh,
folks,
I
we
just
had a
got deja
repeat.
vu.
Yeah, I had deja vu. Sorry about that, folks.
So that story wasn't.
Another technical difficulty on that one. We do
Lucky
apologize. As I said, it was rendered safe and destroyed.
There you go.
Okay. Rob Summerton, who has been battling Bank of America, Fannie Mae, and a slew of lawyers attached to them, concluded 6 years of effort yesterday trying to save his family home. He settled for a mediated undisclosed amount and is heading for Canada. Judge Stephen Hedstrom continued the settlement process to September 15th. During the morning wait in the halls of Lake County Courthouse, Rob shared views regarding Fannie Mae, the current legal owner of the house he owned and lived in that was built by his father. He has valiantly attempted to save it up to this time. Summerton alleges that Fannie Mae is in receivership, a level of bankruptcy, and is no longer licensed by the state of California to do business. He also states that the attorney representing Fannie Mae is presenting documents that are fraudulent. According to Summerton, both Lake County and the officials in the county who accepted clouded titles signed by robo-signers are remiss by accepting as legitimate those clouded titles, which include the sale of his family home on the steps of the courthouse.
I'm glad it's finally over.
Whoever said there is no such thing as a free lunch has not been to one of the 5 locations where any child in Mendocino County can receive just that, Monday through Friday. Free breakfast is available too, from 7 a.m. to 7:45 a.m. at Grace Hudson. Lunch is provided from 11:30 a.m. to noon. Lunch only is available at Todd Grove Park from 11 to 11:45 a.m. The free summer meals program runs through July 31st at Grace Hudson and Todd Grove Park. No ID is required. The program, which is funded by the USDA and the Department of Education, is facilitated by the Ukiah Unified School District, whose food service directors are responsible for organizing it. The Health and Human Services Planning and Prevention Unit promotes the program, which has provided kids with free lunches every summer for 40 years. According to Megan Watson, Farm to Schools coordinator at North Coast Opportunities, what is extra special about this year is the collaboration with local farms. Summer is a great time for collaboration, she points out, because so much is ripe. Watson has been active in bringing local produce to the schools for several years now. During spring quarter, some schools had local food day, where students had the opportunity to sample new entrees and meals with ingredients from local farms. The focus was on middle schools, and Watson reports that the kale salad at Eagle Peak and Palmalita sold out. This year, we took it to a new level, she said, adding that food service staff at local schools will receive training and equipment to prepare fresh produce. With all these advances in place, Watson hopes to make local produce a permanent part of the school lunch menu. It's not just kids who benefit. Schools can be great customers for local farmers, Watson declares, adding that the collaboration between the Mendel Lake Food Hub, which strives to create connections between local farmers and consumers, Love and Mama of Potter Valley, Cobello Organic, Organic, and Brookside School Farm of Willits are among the farms participating in the free summer meals program. Brandon Gatto, manager of Covelo Organic, is pleased to be involved in bringing the food to local schools. What's awesome is when I can harvest something and take it down to the school and get it to those kids, he says. Coming up next is weather and sports, and we'll be right back.
SSS Multimedia is sending you smoke signals, providing their clients with the ultimate communication and multimedia marketing, distribution, production, and web-based services. They feature high-def video equipment and quality audio sound. SSS is your multimedia source, from graphics for business cards to television production, radio, live sound, and everything in between. SSS is sending you smoke signals. Get your message out with SSS Multimedia. For more information, call 707-701-6416 or email info@sssmultimedia.com. usmultimedia.com.
No laughing.
And we're back with the weather. El Nino conditions are intensifying in the tropical Pacific Ocean, potentially leading to a record event that would help control rainfall in East Africa and possibly bring desperately needed drought relief to California, while temporarily cutting off rainfall to parts of the Indonesian rainforest. A record-strong event that would also virtually guarantee that 2015 will beat 2014 as the warmest year this planet has seen since records began in the late 19th century. In recent weeks, the water temperatures have grown warmer, propelled by a reversal of seasonal trade winds and the sloshing of mild ocean waters from the west to east across the Pacific. The atmosphere has shown telltale signs of positive feedback that are reinforcing the El Nino, including the formation of several tropical cyclones spinning in the central and northwestern Pacific basins. Taking these observations into account, a new forecast released Thursday by the Climate Prediction Center, or the CPC, in Maryland calls for a strong El Nino event to occur between now and the coming Northern Hemisphere winter, which is when El Nino conditions tend to peak, as well as when they have their greatest influence on global weather patterns. There's a 96% chance of continued El Nino conditions from September to November, with a 94% chance of such conditions lasting through January. El Nino data extends back to 1870. In order for El Nino events to occur and strengthen, the intricate dance must take place between ocean and atmosphere, and some aspects of these interactions are not well understood. So far this spring and summer, however, the atmosphere has been reinforcing the ocean conditions and vice versa, with the temporary reversal of the east to west trade winds observed near the equator because of a phenomenon known as westerly wind bursts. Such wind bursts are crucial to creating and reinforcing strong El Nino events, since they drive pulses of mild sea surface temperatures eastward towards South America, according to recent research. The strength of an ongoing wind burst may be the sign of a particularly strong event to come. Today, in our current weather, we're going to have a mainly sunny sky and higher temperatures than we saw over the weekend. Our high will be 93. Winds will be from the south-southeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight it will be mostly clear with a low of 66. Winds will shift but keep their same speed from the south at 5 to 10. Tomorrow will provide sunny skies as temperatures continue to increase with a high of 97. Winds will speed up from the south at 10 to 20 miles per hour. And tomorrow night we will have a mostly clear sky and a low of 66. Winds will remain steady from the south at 10 to 15 miles per hour. When we join you back here on Friday, it will be sunny with a cooler high of 92. Winds will stay steady from the south, increasing to 10 to 20 miles per hour.
In sports, Mike Trout flashed the skill that puts him at the front of baseball's new generation, just moments after 4 of the all-time greats walked off the field. Trout became the first player in 38 years to homer leading off an All-Star game, then became the first player to take home the Midsummer Classics MVP award 2 years in a row. A new-look All-Star game finished with the same old result. The American League beat the National League 6-3 Tuesday night and will open the World Series at home for the 10th time in 13 years. After Trout completed a career All-Star cycle in just his 5th big league season, Prince Fielder delivered. He drove in 2 runs, sending Trout blazing home ahead of Joe Pedersen's throw with a run off Clayton Kershaw that put the AL ahead for good. Indonesia dominated pitching. Felix Hernandez, winner David Price, Zach Britton, Dellin Betances, and Wade Davis took scoreless turns in the AL's 3rd win in a row. A season after retirement of Derek Jeter dropped the curtain on the turn-of-the-century greats, Trout was among 6 starting position players under 25, the most since 1965. As last year's game in Minneapolis, he took a tie-breaking triple and a later a go-ahead double. This time, Trout sent Zach Greinke's 4th pitch, a 94-mile-an-hour fastball on the outer half of the plate, over the wall and right next to the visiting bullpen for an opposite field homer. Fielder and Lorenzo Cain had run-scoring hits in the 5th against Kershaw, the reigning NL MVP, that put the AL ahead 3-1. Manny Machado, at 23, another one of the sport's fresh faces, hit a double off the right field wall against Francisco Rodriguez in the 7th and scored on Fielder's sacrifice fly. And Brian Dozier, the last player added to the game as an injury replacement, hit a solo home run off Mark Malicon in the 8th. NL runs came home on Johnny Peralta's RBI single in the 2nd, Andrew McCutcheon's homer off Chris Archer in the 6th, and Brandon Crawford's sacrifice fly in the 9th. Former NFL player Jawan Dawson, 37, was confirmed dead Tuesday from a drowning accident. Dr. Lynn Salzberger, MD of the Collin County in Texas, medical examiner's office told NFL media. Dawson's body was recovered from Laven Lake in Collin County, Texas at 11:35 p.m. Monday by the Collin County Sheriff's Office Mariner Unit and Texas Parks and Wildlife. The searchers used side scan radar to locate the body about 300 yards from where Dawson fell in and divers extracted it from the water. Dawson spent missing after falling off of an inner tube a boat was towing on Sunday. He was with his 3 children and 2 other family members when he fell into the lake. Dawson was not wearing a life vest at the time of the incident. Harvey said that alcohol is not a contributing factor to his disappearance. Dawson was drafted out of Tulane by the Cleveland Browns in his 3rd round of the 2000 NFL Draft. He played 3 seasons in the NFL, amassing 52 receptions, 664 yards, and 2 TDs for the Browns and Houston Texans. Sheriff's Office received a 911 call at 6:28 p.m. Sunday from one of the Dawson family members. Rescuers began searching for Dawson at 6:30 p.m. before calling off the search at 11:30 p.m. according to Harvey. The search resumed at 7:20 a.m. Monday. Aiding the search were Collin County Sheriff's Office, Wiley Fire Department, Texas Parks and Wildlife, and Branch Fire Department. On another sad note, John David Crow, the 1957 Heisman Trophy winner who earned his last of his 4 Pro Bowl berths with the 49ers, died Wednesday night at 79. Mr. Crow, a running back, was the number 2 overall pick of the Chicago Cardinals in 1958. He spent the final 4 seasons of his 11-year career with the 49ers. He earned Pro Bowl recognition in 1965 when he ranked 9th in the NFL in touchdowns and yards from scrimmage, and 10th in yards per rushing. In 1966, he won the Len Eschman Award, given to the team's most inspirational player. Mr. Crow was among the best pass-catching running backs in his era. He averaged 14.3 yards and scored 35 touchdowns on 258 career receptions. He had 49.63 rushing yards, averaged 4.3 yards per attempt, and scored 39 touchdowns on the ground. He finished his career in 1968 as a tight end and matched his career high in catches and had a career high 531 yards. The versatile player also had the most completions, 33, of any non-quarterback in NFL history, and his do-it-all ability netted him the Heisman in 1957 at Texas A&M. A two-way player, Mr. Crow earned the award after rushing for 562 yards, throwing 5 touchdown passes, and grabbing 5 interceptions. In his retirement, Mr. Crow has spent his later years in College Station, Texas, was an assistant coach at Texas A&M, and in the NFL with the Browns from 1972 to 73, and with the San Diego Chargers in 1974. He had a 20-34-1 record as the head coach at Northeast Louisiana from 1976 through 1980. He also served as the athletic director at Northeast Louisiana from 1983 to 1988, and Texas A&M from 88 to 93. Mr. Crow is among several prominent 49ers who have died this year. Offensive tackle Bob St. Clair died April 20th at 84, and running back J.D. Smith died April 1st at 83.
And in our final word, a man in Connecticut wearing only his birthday suit brought rush hour traffic on Interstate 95 to a stop when he parked his car on the shoulder and clambered onto the roof. Rubberneckers clogged the morning commute in West Haven, and state police closed the highway after receiving a call for medical assistance yesterday morning. The naked man was sitting cross-legged atop the driver's side of the car roof and seemed quite content to be letting it all hang out, according to a video of the strange sight. According to Connecticut Trooper Kelly Grant of the state police, the nude motorist was taken for a medical evaluation.
How about psychological evaluation?
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for joining us today. Our next news at noon will be on Friday, starting at noon, of course. In the meantime, you all have a great day. I'm Pete Schiffman.
I'm Megan Berger.
And don't worry about our executive producer. She's just throwing her comments in just at whim.
Today's fireworks.
And coming up, yes, coming up next is the 4th of July fireworks parade. So please stay tuned for that.
You'll have to refresh your, tell them they have to refresh their screen.
And,
Refresh your screen.
Thank you.
Refresh.
After the show is done, they refresh their screen. Right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Bye.